Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I've got a new project here, and it's one that I've been waiting for a long time. I mentioned it when I worked on the previous to last video, or 3 videos ago. This is the famous Trans-Oceanic 7000, the Zenith Trans-Oceanic D7000Y. It belongs to my friend Tiago in Porto Santo. He lives on the island of Porto Santo, which is about, I think it's about 15 nautical miles northeast of here. And he brought it over, wanting me to do a complete refurb on this, but he then told me there's more than that involved. The radio doesn't work at all. And you can see it here. There's the guts and there's the body. I've got into it. I'll go back and show you the dismantling and everything else, but I got so excited about this. I had to get going on this. I'm like a kid with on Christmas morning. I've been looking forward to working on this radio for a long time. So here it is. And this is really a special radio. This one actually was bought in Venezuela by someone who absolutely wanted it. Apparently he paid a fortune for it over there. And then he finally brought it over to Madeira and it stopped working. And he had someone look at it, which is always a bad sign because the result is it doesn't work at all. And apparently, according to Tiago, you switch it on, nothing happens. And that's what I did. I put some battery power to the battery clips. I was not going to try the mains. And I got absolutely nothing at all. No current draw, no lights, no nothing. Now, as you will see, because I'm doing this sort of after the fact, the answer was pretty simple, part of it anyway. But let me just show you what it is that I got. When we look at this thing, it's very similar, or it reminds us a little bit of the 3000, the Royal 3000, and very sort of unimpressive. It's a box, but it's a box of magic tricks. And as you'll see when I open it up, you've got the top cover, which you flip up and there's a world map on there. You'll see later there's also a time selector. The bottom cover has the usual compass and also the logbook that fits in the bottom. Very unassuming. It's a hefty beast. It's quite big. Nothing much at the back. It comes with its own AC plug. This plug is not a normal plug, so Tiago brought it with him. Obviously, I could just clip it on temporarily if I wanted to try it, but he's brought it along. And now we look at this thing, and it's got the handle on there. You've got your world map with time zones, the dial. Everything is in place there except for the one knob, which is the BFO knob, which this one does have. It has a BFO, so you can decode SSB. And other than that, it looks, well, yeah, very similar to the 3000. There's nothing wrong with the body on this thing. It's in very good condition, very clean and shiny. Most, if not all, of the chrome is in place. It's been very well taken care of, as you can tell, except obviously for that one knob, unfortunately. But there's no dings or dents on the grill plate, on the grill. And yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's the big brother. We've got a very interesting little light on there. When you, I think it only works on shortwave. You flip that out and a little light comes on to light up your log. Tuning is working, or at least the dial cords seem to be in place. So that's a good step. And here we've got the usual compass, as well as the logbook that fits in at the bottom. We're used to seeing that as well. Now, when we look at that top map, there's a slider at the bottom, which you set the local time and you've got the time difference between the different zones. And of course, when you close it up, it's all protected. The antenna also comes out top, like similar to the other one. The other one came out of the handle. It's quite a beefy antenna, as is to be expected, because this is a world receiver. It extends a long way. So nicely fitted in there. Actually, I've got to clip it properly, but it clips in there and disappears into the body. And now the back, If the front is unassuming, the back's even less so. There's a headphone socket over there, and then you've got to remove the cover to actually see what else you have in there. And there are a few things. Here we have it, the battery compartment. This is the legend on the back there, giving you the model number, Royal D7000Y. There are quite a few models, I believe. There's a 7000-1, -2, and this is the Y. Let's look closer. Look at the back. Everything seems to be in order. There's no damage there. We have the antenna connectors for external antenna. That there is the AC input. And then we've got a switch which allows us to select between DC and AC operation. The battery compartment, again, perfectly clean. A little bit of rust on the contacts there, but nothing serious. And of course, the rotary switch, the band selector switch, which seems to be working very, very well. Good sign. Now, to dismantle this, it's the usual. You have to remove the knobs, and sometimes they can be a little bit stiff, like the ones on the left there. I use 2 spoons, 2 small teaspoons, and you can put the spoons in there and gently pry it out. Do not force it. If you have a glass surface, for example, you can put a bit of cloth or something just to make sure the spoons don't scratch or crack anything there. But if you're patient, it works. Now on the back, there are these 3 at the bottom. And the whole back just comes off slowly. Now I'm looking carefully. Aha! Okay, that's why nothing worked. No power was getting in because that plug is disconnected. Could be a good sign or a bad sign. We don't know why it's disconnected. I hope it wasn't creating any sparks, but we'll find out. That's it, nice and clean as usual. Now to remove this out of the cabinet, you've got to remove that selector knob. You loosen a little grub screw on the side of that and it comes out. Now don't lose the grub screw. Some of these sizes are not the ones we're used to today, so if you lose it, you'll have a problem. Now to remove the actual chassis from the cabinet, you've got 5 screws. 2 on the left there. They're actually indicated on the service manual. There are 2 on the left, and then there are 3 on the right there that hold a bracket in place. So the whole thing has to come out, including the bracket. Make sure you don't lose any of the parts. Now this is ready to come out of the cabinet, cabinet itself, and the way to do that is very gently maneuver it. Oh, I forgot to take off the wires. There are 2 wires over there that go to the lamps, and there's also the speaker wires. Speaker wires just plug in. It's that yellow and black one there. And now as I maneuver it out, I have to sort of twist it somewhat to the side. What is that? Piece of plastic. Twist it to the side to make sure that it comes out properly. You don't want to rush it, but finally it's out. And there are still those 2 wires that go to the light, the little light at the front. And they need to be disconnected as well. Now I'm just doing this close up so I remember which ones they are. They're 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 from the bottom. And you just unplug them. Good thing everything is pluggable. That's the one thing about this radio. It's plugs everywhere. You don't really need to desolder anything. I mean, even the transistors are on sockets. Figure that. Well, the inside looks pretty good. A bit of dirt, a bit of dust. Nothing serious. Everything seems to be in place. That's great. So here we are out of the cabinet, and I'm sort of looking at this. It's the first time I've seen one of these naked. Yeah, and it looks in some ways very similar to the 3000. You've got those trimmer capacitors all over here. Even that one sticking out at the bottom there is similar. You've got the FM block here with 2 transistors plugged into there. There's these plugs. There's something wrong here. Oh dear. That's unwound. I don't like dial strings unwinding. That one is unwound. So that's sort of unwound from there. And that string goes round to this guy. I'll have to figure out what that does. No idea. But that's the first strange thing I've found. Other than that, we've got that the antenna, external antenna connectors over here. What else can we see? They're all the RF coils over here, similar to the other one. Okay, this wave guide is inside, or the wave magnet. The ferrite rod is inside rather than out the top. All very neat. I think if we look under there, we can see transistors plugged in. It's plugged into that backboard. There's another one there. They're all on sockets. A couple of these are going to the top. The IF transformers over here, also sort of in a line. I'm sure they ordered according to the schematic. This here, I will assume or presume, are the output transistors. There's another one down there. Pre-drivers, drivers. I'm not sure what transistors these are, but we'll certainly find out soon enough. But they're all accessible. They're all on sockets, which makes life a lot easier. Now, there are a couple of notes here. It says here solto, which means loose. And he's talking about this transistor here, whatever that means. It's got numbers down there as well. There's 2 over here. There's 1 at the top. So there was some logic involved in the attempted repair, but I don't know what it was. We go to the front. We've got the usual situation here. Switches there. Pots are very accessible. A few caps. A few electrolytics. These will probably have to go. I don't see that he's changed any components in here. I don't see any component changes. I might find them when I look a bit closer, but I don't see any. The usual surface mount, or rather point-to-point over there. And some of those transistor sockets are accessible from the back here. So we'll be able to check voltages and so on, and signal. Here we have the RF section. Again, very similar to the other one. And here's that scary beast, the switch selector. It all seems to be okay, which is a good sign. It'll need cleaning, obviously. I don't see many components there that would need swapping out. A lot of these capacitors are ceramics. They're usually pretty good. So what else have we got? According to the schematic, I believe your supply, your 12 volts DC supply comes to here. Positive, negative, the chassis is negative. It goes through a switch from this socket. This is that back of that socket that's on the other side. Goes to the volume control, which has a switch, and then comes to here. So we can test it by applying 12 volts and 0 volts over here. These 2 guys are the speakers, so we'll connect them. Let's put some power to this thing, put a speaker on here. And I'm going to supply this with about 9 volts. I'm going to limit the current to about 100 milliamps just to see if we get anything and see how we go from here. Let me do that. All right, I've set this guy to FM. You know that FM is my go-to. Let me put the correct antenna in. I've got the correct antenna at the back. I've got the supply going down here, ground and positive. I've got the supply programmed to 9 volts, 100 milliamps. And because it's going there, it's bypassing the switch, so it should come on. Ah. And it's come on. Let me try tuning. Well, we've got FM. We've got FM. Brilliant. It's not very sensitive. Hey, but at least it's there. One of these is AFC, I'm not quite sure which one. Let me get the mini whip in place and try broadcast band. I'm obviously manually moving the tuning condenser at the back. That's what's loose. This one tunes both the FM and AM, and the way it tunes the AM is by that dial cord that's connected at the back. Okay, but I'm getting nothing. FM, long wave, broadcast band. Absolutely nothing. A little hiss from the speaker, but it's nothing. But FM, is receiving something. The amplifier is fine. Let me try, what's that drawing? It's 20 milliamps. Let me go up to 10 volts, 11, 12. What happened? What happened? What happened here? I've just upped it to 12 volts, which is what it should be. 11. Okay, something weird is happening. As soon as I go over 10 volts supply, FM dies away. The current draw doesn't really rise. Well, it rises to 30 milliamps, but no big deal. At 9 volts, it comes back. Okay, so this is strange. Whatever it's doing, the minute I increase the supply to 12 volts, everything sort of seems to shut down. Or at least the reception seems to shut down. We also don't have AM, even though I'm tuning manually at the back there. So what do I need to do here? Well, first things first, the supply section, the capacitors. There are some filter caps here. These things are 16 volts. That capacitor is rated at 16 volts. The supply is 12, but there's nothing to confirm that that could not have gone wrong badly, because it's very close to the supply. I mean, on a 12 volt rail, the minimum I'd put in there is 25 volts. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do my usual bit. I'm going to replace the electrolytics, especially those that I feel or know are related to the supply. And then I'll come back and see if it's made any difference. I don't think this has anything to do with the AM. The FM works, which means that a good part of this is working. But something's going wrong when I increase the supply voltage near to its normal supply voltage. I won't worry about that tuning problem on the AM first. I'm going to look into the problem of this dying down as soon as I increase the voltage. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So let me replace some caps and get back to you. Well, folks, I'm back. And I want to just say something. You know, I've heard a lot of comments about how recapping is not the be-all and end-all. Well, I agree to a degree, but in this particular case, let me show you something. I replaced exactly 3 capacitors, okay? That one, and that one. I'll show you on the schematic. 3 capacitors exactly. Now watch this.
Faça como eu e aproveite a campanha de jardim da Auchan.
It's on FM,
os melhores
right?
preços em produtos de jardinagem. Vamos renovar o jardim juntos?
And look at the voltage we're at.
Entre a Guarda e a Freineda, com subida à Serra da Estrela.
Absolutely no problem working at 12 volts, which was not happening before. But that's not all. No, that's not all. Let me change the antenna to Stripe broadcast band. Put it on broadcast band. Very bad reception, but it's receiving. Or it's trying to. Let's try shortwave. I've got to change the antenna at the back again. It's got a separate shortwave one. Shortwave. Oh, and he whips off. Is it good reception? Not really. It's not very good reception, but it's there. It's a tone control. That is the RF gain. So what have we learnt? Well, we've got FM working fairly well, all the way up to 12 volts, no problem with the supply anymore. We've got the AM is back, and we were getting absolutely nothing on AM before. And it's sort of trying to pick up. It's not, it's pretty deaf, but it is trying to pick up. We are getting signs of AM reception, which means that something has corrected itself. And all I did was change 3 capacitors. These 3. And you know what? I measured them, and they measure good for value. They're a bit high, and they measure good for ESR. So go figure. I have no explanation for that. I have no idea why that would make such a difference. They were in the right positions. They were. All I did is replace them, literally replace the exact same capacitors with new ones, slightly higher rated voltage, nothing else. As usual, I coated or covered them with heat shrink. These are axial radial capacitors. I don't have axials, so I bend it back, extend one of the legs, put heat shrink on, write the value on. I think it looks better than having an radial capacitor there. So 1, 2, 3 caps. That's it. I am really chuffed. I'm really chuffed. This has been a good Christmas morning. So what I'm going to do next is continue on. I'll be checking voltages on at the various points, like the IF stage. Make sure that all the voltages are getting to where they're supposed to correctly. There could be still a problem here. I've met 2 resistors on the part of the circuit that I showed you, and they're both within spec, well within spec. But that does not mean the others will be. So that's what I'll be doing next. I'll be continuing checking the supply, making sure every section is getting the respective voltage, and then probably trying out just to make sure that the transistors are fine, checking those, checking for leakage. I'm not even sure what transistors this one uses. I know that they're not the same transistors that the 3000 uses, so we might be facing another challenge there. But because reception is pretty poor, I've got a feeling the RF section, probably the RF amplifier, needs a bit of a boost. That transistor might be leaking badly, or maybe not even working at all. If the RF amplifier isn't working, this thing would still exhibit the symptoms that we're seeing now. In other words, you would still hear some of it come through, but the reception on AM would be pretty poor. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to stop for now and do a bit more checking, as I've said. And I'm enjoying this one. I'm enjoying this one thoroughly, and especially when things come together. it makes you feel a lot better. And if you've enjoyed that, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.